Okay, do you remember what we learned yesterday? Parashat Shmini, that's this week. The Lubavitcher Rebbe asks the question that the Kli Yakar, Rabbi Shlomo, Ephraim Shlomo Milunchitz, he asks, one of the commentators in the Torah, he asked, and the Rebbe brings his answer and increases on his answer, embellishes his answer. And what's the question that he asked, and what's the answer? The question is that this whole Torah portion is called the 8th day, because it's the 8th day of the preparation for the tabernacle in the desert. And the Kli Yakar immediately asks, it was not the 8th day of the preparation. There was only 7 days of preparation. This day was the first day that the tabernacle was working. This is the day that the 7 days were preparing for. Why is it called the 8th day? So he gives the answer that the reason it's called the 8th day is to show you its connection to the number 8, and also to show you that it was dependent on the 7 days that came before. Something like the mimer we just finished learning, namely that we have to do work. We have to serve God. We have to make effort from below to above. Like we said before, be heroes. Defy our own nature, defy the nature of the world. Do what God wants. That's something like the 7 days of preparation. But afterwards, there's going to be the future redemption, an amazing, miraculous result that's totally not comparable to anything we did previously. But it depends on what we did before. So therefore, this 8th day, even though it's a different category totally, this 8th day is the actual opening of the tabernacle, and God's presence was revealed to all the Jewish people the first time since Mount Sinai. It was revealed. Something which is totally incomprehensible. It happened. And it's totally incommensurate with the 7 days of work that the Jews did in the preparation, that Moses did actually, in the preparation of the temple. So why is it called number 8 when it's really something totally new? Says the reason is because it's connected to those 7 days. There had to be those 7 days as incomparable as they are to the number 8. There had to be the 7 days of preparation. So because of these 7 days of preparation, therefore they earned this amazing gift, right? Like I said before, I'll give you the example again. They say, okay, make take a sackcloth, whatever it is I said, and a burlap, and sew it together, make a bag, sew it to bag. Okay, now I'm going to put inside of this bag a big present. What is it going to be? You are now the king of Europe. What has that got to do with one thing or the other? What is it? Before yesterday, I gave the example, they put diamonds in it. I just thought of a better example, right? You made the sack. Okay, ready? Close your eyes. We're going to fill up the sack. Okay, here you go. You are the king of Europe. They put up a big crown on your head. And you're what does this got to do with making a sack? What does it got to do? You're going to put anything in the sack? Your Majesty, everybody's bowing down to. That's ridiculous. How does this help? That's exactly what happened. The Jews had to make this effort. They had to make the 7 days of preparation. And what they got was something totally unexpected. The revelation of God, amazing. But they had to do the preparation. Said the Rebbe, this is the same thing as Sfirat Omer. Sfirat Omer is when the Jews got out of Egypt, so they started counting the days until they received the Torah. They counted the days. That's what we do now. Every night, right, when the night set, we start counting. We count. It's a commandment. Every day is a mitzvah. What's the mitzvah? To count the day. Just to count. You don't do anything with anything. It's the whole commandment is just time. You don't do anything in the time. You just make a blessing on time. So they made a blessing every single day. It says every single day that they sort of worked on themselves, and that's why 7 times 7, you have 7, it's called 7 emotional qualities, and that each one is contained with 7 within them, so that the 7, each one was purified. Each one of the 7 emotional traits was purified from 7 different facets of it. That's 49. But then afterwards, they got the Torah, which was something completely. The first, here we go. The first service that the Jewish people did, the first service the Jewish people served God immediately after they left the land of Egypt. When they were in Egypt, it says they made the Pesach sacrifice, right? They took the lamb or the goat, and they sacrificed it, and they put the blood on the door. They ate matzah, and they made the night of the Passover Seder, and they left. But that was when they were in Egypt. As soon as they left Egypt, the first commandment they actually did was what we call counting the Omer. Counting. This is the first day since we left Egypt. First day. Thus, a Sfiras Omer is the first step in the service of God, which had after the Jews left Egypt in a complete way. When the GEULA, this is the first step from not just from Egypt, but also to what? To going into Israel, but going into Israel is we're still counting Sfirat Omer. What is it's the first step to the future redemption. GEULA Tira, the future redemption that we talked about before, which we said before, that's the number 8. We said that the harp of the Moshiach is going to be 8 strands. Alpisa, according to this, we can understand the reason why Sfirat Omer we count in the night. Under Tag geht nach der night, and the day goes after the night. Now, usually the way it goes is in the world, in Judaism, the night is first, right? When God created the world, it says the night was first and then the day came. But in the temple, the service started in the daytime. So if you sacrifice the sacrifice in the daytime and you had, let's say, 1 day to eat it, it means you could eat it that whole day until the next morning. It started in the morning. Holy things start in the morning. Commandments, right, usually are done in the daytime. Most of the commandments are in the daytime. You don't put on tefillin at night. You put them on in the daytime, and the talit is in the daytime. Most commandments are the daytime. Says, which is the counting of the Omer is an exception. It's called counting the Omer. Okay, now this commandment of counting the Omer, just a little parenthetical explanation of what's going on over here. What is this Omer? What does it mean counting the Omer? So when the Jews went into the land of Israel, so they cut the first harvest of barley, they cut it, and they would count from that day. They would cut it and bring it to the tabernacle, the temple, whatever was there, and they would count from the Omer. The krava from the Omer is a sacrifice. They would take the Omer, they would take this barley and they would bunch it up together, make it into bind it together. That was called an Omer. Omer is a bundle. A bundle. The word Omer means a bundle. So it's a bundle of this grain, and they would bring it as a sacrifice. The whole big process, how they would bring it as a sacrifice. By korbanos and sacrifice, the law is that the night goes after the day. Usually sacrifices are done in the daytime. The Nacht geht nach dem Tag. The day goes after, so the night goes after the day. Right? Now, the temple service started in the daytime. But by Sfiras Omer, so the sacrifice, bringing this Omer, this bundle, that was done in the daytime, because all sacrifices in the daytime. But the counting of the Omer, this was, we count how many days there were from the time that they brought this sacrifice. Nevertheless, it is, the law is that the day goes after the night. So counting the Omer, we start in the nighttime. Not like the sacrificing of the Omer or the sacrificing of all the sacrifices that was done in the day. All the commandments are done in the day, but the commandment of Sfirat Omer is done in the nighttime. Is doch nicht verstanden, so it's not understood. Because the counting of the Omer is we count the days from this sacrifice. So if so, for vos, why is this counting of the Omer different from the sacrifice itself? They brought this bundle of barley with a tremendous ceremony and procedure, ritual that was done. And that was done at the daytime. And the counting was done in the nighttime. Why did they count in the night? Why didn't they just wait one day and count the next morning? Why? No, we count in the nighttime, and every night we count. This is going to be a big hint at something in the future. Is there beer? The explanation is the oiftu from the GEULA, the whole thing of the future redemption that we're waiting for so impatiently, or we should be. Oif Yetzias Mitzrayim, the whole difference between the future redemption and going out of Egypt and receiving the Torah is that when the Jews left Egypt, and even when they received the Torah, is the GEULA, the revelation from above, was not by means of their work. That's what we just learned in the Maimer. They got it for free. Going out of Egypt and receiving the Torah was a free gift. Varum, because Chadz Ze'aben Betzeled Sfira 49 Tag, even though that they did count right between going out of Egypt and receiving the Torah, that's when they counted this, the Omer, that's when they counted. They didn't bring the Omer sacrifice because they didn't have the land of Israel, but they counted the days. They counted 49 days. But B'meshech Azak Kortzat Zeit, such a short amount of time, only 50 days, Nitkeven Sheikh wasn't relevant, Zezel and Aroiskin, that they could go out in their own service, a line from the Mentat Sharituma, from the 49 gates of impurity. You know, if a Zoy field Nizachim to be so refined, Varen Suvil and Roy to be prepared to receive the Torah. So what happened? The Jews got out of Egypt. God took them out of Egypt. The Jews received the Torah. God did the whole thing. 1 minute. But they prepared themselves 49 days. Says the Rebbe, those 49 days, it's impossible that in 49 days they could have really been prepared to go from being slaves, fourth generation slaves, to the Egyptians. They had total slave mentality. They woke up in the morning, slaves. They went to sleep at night, slaves. That's all they knew, was to be a slave and not to be killed, right, by their masters because they didn't work enough. That was their whole life, the Jews. And suddenly 50 days later, they became the servants of the creator of the universe. They weren't ready for a thing like this. The Jews weren't ready. They left Egypt. All of a sudden, they got the Torah. They had to make all these choices on their own, right, to do this commandment, not to do it, how to do it. They were free. To go from this slavery to such freedom, true, they counted 49 days, but those 49 days, it was impossible that they earned the revelation of the Torah by means of the 49 days. It was all a gift from above. When the Rebbe, even though that they weren't prepared, B'meshech Yovel, as soon as the horn, there was, God made a horn sound, a shofar sound, like something like the shofar that's going to be in the future. Nach Matan Torah, after Matan Torah, is the Welt verblieben, the world remained physical. God did everything just like we learned in the Maimer. So the whole thing of going out of Egypt and receiving the Torah was from above, free gifts from God. To the degree that after they received the Torah and God's presence was not revealed, the world went back to being the same world as it was before. There could be even the sin of the golden calf, golden calf. So all these revelations that happened, because the Jews didn't really participate, and they couldn't participate, they didn't know. So therefore, it was very possible, and in fact, that's what happened, that there was the sin of the golden calf. There's Shorish, which is the source of all the sins afterwards. Masha'enkin, which is not going to be, that's not going to be in the future redemption. What's going to be in the future redemption? Vibalt as Zivet, Doch, Kuman, because the future redemption is going to come through the service and the work of the Jews, right? Like we said, like according to the Rebbe Eliezer's opinion, we just finished learning in the Maimer, was das is Zich, Angeheuben, which this began when the Jews left Egypt, so Mezachik, to refine themselves, Nitblois Zich Alain, not just to refine themselves like they did with Sfirat Omer, but also their whole portion in the world, everything around them. As vet the Welt, then the world will be a vessel to receive the revelation from godliness in an inside way. Like we said, Nigla Kavod Avaya, they'll be revealed the glory of God, the Ra'u called Basar, and all, even the flesh will see, all humanity will see, even the physical world will see. As Oich, that there's a creator. As Oich der Basar, even the physical flesh their Zen will feel, perceive the glory of God. As the abode of Nivroim, because the service of the creations is nitkan kli, is not a vessel for what's going to be in the future from Desveg, and nevertheless, vigazakfir, like we said before, vetmen la'achar shlemas avoda, after we do this work in the whole course of the exile, given the Giluyim, there will be redeemed revelations from above in a way that will be able to take them, right? God will reveal himself from above on himself at the Rutu de La'ela, and arousal from above on his own. But because we worked so long, and in a way we were the ones who pushed the button that there could be this revelation from because we did our work, even though that our work is not at all commensurate to the reward that we get, the future redemption, but nevertheless, we'll be able to accept it in an inside way. And our personalities will accept it. Kumtoi, so it comes out. As the Giluyim from the GEULA, the revelations that are going to be in the future redemption, which is supposed to happen right now. Haben in sich zwei Katzavos. They have two, how do you say, the two opposites, two ends of the spectrum. What are the two ends of the spectrum? Number one, Mevet Nisgala Veren, an or that will be revealed, a light of God, a revelation of God, a feeling of the Creator, versus Lagamri Hecher, which is totally higher and above the reality of the world. We'll see that this world was a big, huge lie. But in order to have a lie, you have to have truth, right? You have to have a lie, has to be believable. If there was no such thing as truth, so there would be no such thing as belief. You believe what's true. A lie is something that seems to be true, but it's really not. So this world is really a big lie. And in the future will be revealed what this world really is. There'll be revealed a light of God, which even to the highest possible service of God, we could not reveal it. That's one side. But on the other side, Dach ved Gilui Zain in Welt, it'll be revealed in the world. In a Panemius, the world itself will actually change. Or in simple language, it'll be a very happy world. Happiness. It'll be a very happy world. The world will be serene, and it will be, peaceful, and it will be healthy. But the main thing is it's going to be a very happy world. People will be very happy every moment just to be alive, just to be themselves, because they know that God is creating them. Vibald, and also they know they have the Torah. People have the Torah. The non-Jews have 7 Noahide commandments. They know what's right and wrong. They know what side of the road to drive on. Vibald, as spirit the Omer, because the counting of the Omer is, and the Ershta Avoda is the first service, and zu greiten sich, to preparing yourself for the future redemption. The counting of the Omer. The counting of the Omer was the first commandment the Jewish people got after they were born. The birth of the Jewish people is on Passover. They left Egypt. And counting the Omer was the first commandment they did. And because they're counting from going out of Egypt, but they're counting to the future redemption. The third temple will descend from heaven. All the Jewish people will want to do the commandments. The whole world will realize there's a creator that loves them. Is mischara. Because what's the future? The future redemption is the reward for everything we're doing, right? So from the reward, we can know what exactly is its nature. What's the nature of our work? What are we doing? From them was the schar, from the avoda, that the reward for the service is, and an ofen from matana, it's a gift, is the GEULA atida, the future redemption, is a raya. This is a proof. As oich in the avoda, that also in this service alone is found beta katzavas. There must be in the work that we're doing of counting the Omer, and the work that we're doing in the course of the exile, must also contain these two opposites: the essence of God in the lowest aspects of the world, just like it'll be in the future redemption. So the service that we're doing, they're inyan from Sphira, starting from Sphira to Omer, right? Sphira to Omer, this typifies all of the work that Jewish people are doing now, all the commandments, because it's the first commandment they did when they left. Sphira to Omer, we count the days from the sacrifice. The sacrifice is holy, right? It's a holy thing. It was done in the daytime. Nevertheless, in Sphira to Omer, when do we actually do the counting? The avoda of asmachshir, that's the highest. We draw the highest. But on the other hand, it also embodies the lowest. The service that we do in order to make the world a vessel to receive God, this is according to the creation. First of all, we start with darkness. First of all, darkness, and afterwards light. Der Tag geht nach the day goes after the night. So in other words, counting the Omer, we start with the nighttime to show that we're purifying the world. But the Omer itself, the sacrifice that we're counting from, this sacrifice, the highest, it's done in the daytime. This is a revelation of God on his own. So that the work shows what type of reward there's going to be. What's the explanation like this? By Kadoshim, Kadshim, in the sacrifices, things that were done in the holy temple, the order is that the night goes after the day. Service starts in the daytime. For Keret, exactly the opposite from the service in the creation. God created the world. First, he started with the night. Erev Vayiboker. Why is it that the holy temple starts in the day and the world started in the night? Well, there's Seder Avoda, because the service of God in Bria and creating the world is from Lamata Lamaila, from below to above. We want to serve God, start from darkness. In the world, want to purify the world, you have to start the way the world was made, from the darkness. As you start off with darkness, and through your service of darkness, I would say lack of inspiration, indifference, insensitivity to God. You start out with darkness, as Darfman Mezachech, you refine yourself and the world as the Zal, as Zizal said, it should be a vessel to receiving God, changing the world. But by Kadoshim, but by holy country and by holy things, the opposite is exactly the opposite. We're doing what God already told us to do, from above to below. Men hoiptan mit or, you begin with light. When oich der Leila, and the night was kumt Nochtam Yom, which comes after the day, is a sanavoda. This is what's called birurim. The light that comes down from doing the sacrifices, or from doing any commandment, was kumt mitzad de giloi or. This refines the world, but it refines the world from above to below. They're giloi from Yom, daytime. The daytime starts. First of all, there's light, and this gives power that we can erupt lazim, that we can bring it down into the darkness. Okay, so Sfirat Omer, the whole thing of Sfirat Omer, which its service is going from below to above, to refine the world so that the world will be a vessel to God, and that the world will be a vessel to the future redemption when God will be, the creator will be revealed in the creation. So therefore, Sfirat Omer, you start with darkness. You start in the nighttime. Like the world was created. First of all, darkness. Men edelt ois, by Sfirat Omer, you refine the darkness of the world because you start to count in the nighttime. Every night you count. This is the service of the Jewish people moving toward the future redemption. What happened here? From below to above. But really we have to know that this counting of the Omer that we're doing, it's just a continuation, accounting from the sacrifice, from the holiness. This means as in their avoda, Hasfira, that this what we count, even though we're in the darkness and we're moving up from the darkness to light, which means you have to have faith. This counting is da der koach, but inside of this, the power, we have the power of the commandment that was done in the daytime, GEULA or revealed from above. What's the Rebbe talking about here? We have to change the world. The world can't remain the way it is. You can say, what's the difference? How can it be? It's like people that are, God forbid, drug addicts or alcoholics. They really, truly believe that they have no alternative. They really, truly believe that it's really impossible for them to stop taking drugs or stop. That's the world. That's all there is. That's what they really, truly believe, and they can't stop. It's impossible for them to stop. In order for them to stop, they have to have some sort of a belief there's something outside of them, some sort of a power. There's more than what meets the eye. There's more to the world than they think. There's more to themselves than they think. It's the same thing over here. The Rebbe is saying, don't look at the world the way it is and think this is the way it's supposed to be. It's not supposed to be like this. And the change is not just supposed to be a cosmetic change. We have to have a different rulers. We have to have this party should rule, that party should rule, this religion should rule, that religion should rule. No. The creator of the world has to be revealed in the creation. The world is the creator's world. It's not our world. But in order to make the creator revealed, is we have to do the work, but God empowers us. And that's the idea of it's embodied in counting of the Omer. Counting of the Omer is, first of all, the Omer was a sacrifice. It was a commandment from God. So we have the power of God, but we have to count from the nighttime. And this, what Nimshach, drawn down, this service from the power of God can be given us the power to count what's called Sfirat Omer in the nighttime, to do our work through the whole entire time of exile, the Penimis into the physical world. That the whole world will be changed. Like the Yom HaShemini, like we said. The 7 days of preparation will bring this amazing revelation of goodness. The same thing as the counting of the Omer. This thing that we do through the darkness will be this amazing revelation of goodness and health, and eventually it'll be eternal life. Life will be so amazing, there won't be such a thing as death. Nobody will be bored. Everyone will be looking forward to another moment of miracles. Bagula amiti tashlema. This will be the future redemption by means of Mashiach Tzikenu. The core of Mamash, it should happen right now, immediately. Now let's do the Yom Yom. Rabbi Moshe Meislish says, Rabbi Moshe Meislish said, the Alter Rebbe taught us that the Aleph The beginning of Chassidut is to use your natural traits and instincts and gifts, to use them in serving God. You're intelligent, use your intelligence to serve God. You're emotional, use the emotions to serve God. You're musical, you use your music, you're a leader, you're a follower, you use it to serve God. The beginning of serving God is to use your natural traits. For instance, one example is naturally the mind controls the heart. The mind controls the heart. You have a bad temper, there's this famous book called How to Win Friends and Influence People, right? One of the most egotistical books ever written. And it tells you, you want to be a winner, you want to have friends, you want to influence people, you have to be interested in them. Never get mad. Customer is always right. Right? You have to what if the customer's not right? Never get mad. You have to change yourself. The mind rules over the heart. Pure selfishness. But nevertheless, it makes you into a very friendly, nice, compatible person. Right? That's good. What's wrong with that? That's good. And it works on the principle that the mind rules over the heart. But that's done for selfish things. You want to win friends and influence people for yourself, right? Here we're talking about using this natural trait that the mind rules over the heart to serve God, to love God, to have awe of God, to fear God, to believe in God, even though your natural heart tells you there's no such thing. Think for yourself, eat the food. What do I care if it's kosher or not? The mind says, do what God says. Think if it's kosher first. Right? Don't get mad. Why don't get mad? Because God says you shouldn't get. And the Tanya explains very beautifully. God is creating everything. Everything that happens comes from God. God is creating you. You owe him everything. And God makes everything happen for you. Getting mad means denying God. Means denying the goodness of the Creator. Don't get mad. Oh, that means your mind rules over your heart. That's the Aleph. That's the beginning of Chassidut. Have a good day. God willing, 3:00. We're going to continue more in the tragic death of Nadav and Avihu.